Record.
This meeting is being recorded.
So my name is Mariah Whitehead. I am the Client Success and Communications Manager for NCCA and for NECPA. And just some general housekeeping for us today. Please keep your devices on mute. You can find that on the bottom left corner of your screen. If you have any questions for our presenters, you can feel free to put that in the chat, and those who are able to will respond to you either during the presentation or right after. And then of course, we will be posting this video on our website and sending a post-viewing survey along with certificates for all attendees. So with that mouthful, I'd like to turn it over to our Director of NCCA, Ms. Cindy Langhoff. Take it away.
Thank you, Mariah, and thanks for all your help, putting together the webinar and helping us all, play our part appropriately. I'd like to introduce to you today our presenter, Laura Delgado. She is a former preschool owner, director, and teacher, so she truly has walked a mile in your shoes in whichever role you share as a member of our audience today. She's now the Vice President of Curriculum and Professional Development at one of our business affiliates, Learning Without Paper. I do want to really thank you for joining us today. I know that many of you are incredibly busy and in many cases overwhelmed by the current situation of short staffing. And COVID outbreaks contributing to more staffing shortages. I hope you find this webinar and information helpful in ways that can contribute to simplifying processes that you as a director or owner maybe have been doing in a manner that takes more time than you have to do now. I would also ask that those of you that are directors or owners on the line, if you could put into the chat if you have a waiting list due to staff shortages and how many staff you are trying to hire to be able to fill your open spots. I get a lot of questions from the media about what is happening in childcare and what is causing the issues of parents not being able to find childcare availability, and I'd like to speak on more of your behalf. So if you will also let me know where your business or the center that you run is located in. So thank you, and I'm going to let Laura take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Cindy. I appreciate that introduction, and it's you asking for information about staffing and what everyone's needs really is a great segue into the presentation. So today we're going to talk about directors' tips, tools, and strategies, and we are going to go over some introductions. We're going to understand roles, building capacity in your teachers, setting the stage for learning, emotional support, the QRIS connection, which is really important for many of you, and reflection. So as Cindy said, my name is Laura Delgado. I'm the Vice President of Curriculum and Professional Development here at Learning Beyond Paper. That is me at 4 years old, and this is me at 44. So we just wanted to do something fun and add some preschool pictures of ourselves here at the company. But as Cindy did say, I am a former preschool owner, director, teacher, floater, cook, bus run, after school coach, counselor. I've done it all. My mother had preschools when I was growing up, so I've been around it my entire life, and I ended up walking in her footsteps and following in her footsteps rather. And I started my own preschool eventually after all of those other positions that I listed. So I have experience in family childcare home settings, in school district preschool settings, in large corporations, small single center center situations. And then also I ended up working for Florida's Office of Early Learning for about 6 years. And what was really interesting about that position is when I was a teacher, owner, director, I thought that the challenges that I was facing, or that we were facing, were pretty unique. I thought I was doing something wrong. I thought, we can't figure out what that secret formula is for staffing and enrollment and marketing and things like that. And what I realized when I worked at the state is I was able to see hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of preschools across Florida and other states that were also suffering from the same staffing issues, enrollment issues, budgets, trying to have materials for teachers and helping teachers and finding the right people to care for children. And so it really opened up my eyes because with the state of Florida, I was also part of the curriculum review team, where we would review curriculum to see if it would be placed on the approved list for Florida. And what I was finding is that even with a master's degree, I would get these curriculum kits that I was familiar with as a teacher and owner in my previous life. It was still very difficult to navigate and try to figure out how to lesson plan with all these books and binders and boxes that these publishers were sending us. And, I remember being a teacher in the classroom and not really knowing what to do, and no one really helping me or coaching me, not because they didn't want to, but because there was no time. And I know that we talk a lot about COVID and the staffing crisis that's happening, but we also need to be honest with ourselves that staffing in early learning preschool settings has always been a challenge. I'm sure many of you on the call, even prior to 2 years ago, we're hiring warm bodies to meet ratio until you can find somebody better. So we also need to focus on the fact that this is not something new. So hopefully this training is going to help you understand how you as leaders in your program can really help support the teachers that are there. You have teachers that show up every day. You have teachers that have been there throughout the quarantine, throughout the pandemic, that came to work when there were so many uncertainties that we didn't know. You also have teachers that didn't, but we need to focus on the ones who did show up. So in the chat box, if you can please put in your role, ages you serve, and the state that you're from. So are you an owner, a director, a curriculum specialist, assistant director? Maybe there's some teachers on here. What ages do you serve and what state are you from? So please introduce yourselves. I want to get to know you. And while you're adding that in the chat box, I want to let you know a little bit more about our curriculum team, the content members, because at Learning Beyond, we were very intentional with everyone who works at our company at one point in their career has worked in a preschool setting. And we were very intentional with that because, especially with my team, the content team and the professional development team, it's one thing to sit in a classroom and learn about these things from a college professor or through CDA classes and things like that. But it's another thing to live it. It's a completely other thing to be a teacher by yourself with 10 2-year-olds trying to figure it out and getting ready for a lesson, and then the director comes in and pulls you because the infant teacher called out sick and they need you there. And so it's also, a different situation with being a director having to do that, because it kills you to have to interrupt a classroom and interrupt the flow. So our content team, we have over 150 years of combined expertise, or former owner, directors, and teachers. We have NAEYC professional development facilitators and authors on our team, other state curriculum review board members. We have early learning college professors and people who are really highly regarded in the early learning field. So let me just open up the chat box real quick. I just want to see, a couple of the things here. So great. It looks like we have a lot of directors on the call. So New Mexico, Utah, I see Maryland, Indiana. Let's see, Iowa, New York, Orlando. Okay. Amazing explorers. I've actually been there. So welcome. I'm in Florida. I'm in West Palm Beach. Let's see, Massachusetts. Great. So I want to welcome all of you. Thank you so much for taking this time to spend with us. And so just a little bit more about our actual curriculum. Learning Beyond Paper was created to support teachers in real time. We are online versus paper-based. We have a great system that's intuitive. It's designed for real-time use. Training is built into every activity. So teachers are being trained as they are helping children, and we offer free professional development with our curriculum. We support providers by helping reduce turnover, because we do support teachers every day with every activity and with that free professional development. We are affordable and high quality. Our standards are integrated throughout the day, so we are supporting children by helping them with learning support, social emotional development. Happy teachers equal happy kids. And then we support families by including communication tools so they know what's going on in the classroom. There's teacher retention, which makes families happy. And we promote that curriculum consistency and continuity of care. And so why have we partnered up with NCCA and NECBA? Our goals are aligned. We want to address the equity gap. We want to provide a high quality 21st century curriculum to all children, and our affordability allows that. We want to support early learning providers with tools and training, professional development they need to ensure sustainable success. And we want to serve members, especially during these challenging times. So if we were in person, I would pull out a piece of chart paper right now, and I would ask you, what would you need out of this session for it to be successful? So just like a teacher will sit down at the beginning of the year and put together classroom rules with the children, and the children will shout out, no running, no hitting, no yelling, because it makes it their commitments, their agreements. They respect those a little bit more. We do that as well in training. So what I've done here is I've just picked the ones that are most common when I do in-person training. If there's anything else that you feel that you need, please add it in the chat box, because I definitely want to make sure that your needs are met. But the community agreements, really, it's just a reminder. You've taken the time to be here, so try to be present, try to silence your phones, try to have fun, share. We live in a virtual world now, so it's really hard to connect. So sharing, listening, and engaging through chat will really make this training and this webinar a lot more engaging for everybody. We want to respect others. We want to encourage and support, maintain confidentiality. And then the last two, really, really important, try to learn something new. A lot of us have been in this industry for many, many years, and we walk in meetings or these webinars or trainings and we think, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not going to learn anything new. I just need the hours. But that's, you're just kind of checking off the box if that's the way that you are kind of doing things. So even if everything that I say today you already know, maybe it's a reminder, maybe it's a refresher. So try to be open-minded so you can definitely walk away with something new. So let's reflect a little bit on experiences. And actually, before I dive into this, please ask questions. If you have any questions, if you have comments, if something is speaking to your heart or makes sense, or, it was an aha moment, I would love to hear that in the chat box, because I learn from your feedback, from your comments, and I want to make these trainings relevant to our providers out there. So let's reflect a little bit about on experiences in the actual center. So directors, most of you are directors and owners. Just reflect. You don't have to put it in the chat box, but what challenges are you facing as leaders? We're always talking about the challenges that teachers face and the families and enrollment and this. What about you? What are you facing? What challenges are you facing as leaders? What opportunities do you have for training? What type of impacts are you having on your budget? What's going on with your budget? Do you have enough money for resources and materials? What about teachers? What are they experiencing? Do they have access to training and professional development? Do they have time for lesson planning and prep time? And then for families think about what they're experiencing. Do they understand your curriculum? Do they even know the name of your curriculum or why your program offers a certain curriculum? You know, everything that we do with children has to be intentional, right? So when you are buying supplies, you make sure that the markers are non-toxic. You make sure that the scissors are age appropriate, they're not pointy, children are at 3 and 4 years old can use them. But you also have to be intentional with your program and your quality and why you do certain things in your program. So why did you select the curriculum that you have? Is it just budget? Is it because it fit into your budget, or does that curriculum support your philosophy? Do families have access to school to home lessons or communication? So is that available to them? And then what about children? What are they facing? You know, these are very, very trying times. We have children that were home with their families for a year, 18 months, and they came back to you all, let's just say, a little more busy. So what are they experiencing right now? Are they in classrooms with multiple ages and stages? And that's okay. Multiple age classrooms, multi-age settings, whether you're in a family childcare home or you have classrooms with mixed age groups, perfectly appropriate. And oftentimes children, you know, they learn sometimes even better that way because they're learning from their peers at different levels. But you have to ask yourself, do you have the right teacher in that classroom? Just because you have a great 2-year-old teacher doesn't mean that that teacher is the right person for your 3 to 5-year-old classroom. What impacts has staffing had on your children? Is there inconsistent approach? Is there continuity of care? Have you had a revolving door that, you know, when you have a new teacher, it takes a long time for children to get used to that person. And then once they get used to it, boom, that teacher leaves or something happens. So think about what's happening there. And then again, you know, our behavior challenges being experienced by children. And like I said, everything that we do is for children, right? So this training, directors, tips, tools, and strategies, we're going to talk a lot about building capacity in teachers because all of us want high quality early learning programming for each child. We want each child to have that equitable, high quality experience, but you cannot have that if your teachers do not have the skills and experience to offer that programming. And something I will say that hopefully you'll remember, because this is something that a regional director said to me when I was a director, is that your program will only be as strong as your weakest teacher. Okay, so your program will only be as strong as your weakest teacher. So if you are really striving for high quality, you really, really need to invest time and energy into your teachers who are struggling, because oftentimes, and I'm very honest in my trainings, you know, oftentimes we try to just kind of close our eyes until it's over, you know, whether that means that the teacher leaves or the teacher, you know, finally gets it. But we can't do that. We can't be passive or passive aggressive with our teachers. We have to be in there. We have to be active participants in their ongoing learning, because it's the only way that you're going to be able to elevate that quality in your program. So let's see. I'm just opening up the chat box here to see if there are any questions or comments. I see one was answered there. Okay. So continuing on reflecting with the different roles, you know, directors and teachers. So I know this is really boiling it down to a very, very small list. I know you all do many things, but the role of the director or owner is program quality. You're in charge of the fiscal, you know, responsibility, the budget, enrollment. You're supervising day-to-day operations, family engagement, instructional leaders. You mentor and develop staff, and you set the tone and culture of your program. Now, all of these are super important, but I really, really want you to focus on the last 3 bullet points. You are the instructional leaders of your program. You're the one that is setting that stage. You're the one that's selecting the curriculum in most situations. You're in charge of making sure that everyone gets the proper training, so you're the leader in that. And when I say you, I mean your assistant director, your curriculum coordinator, but that leadership team. You mentor and develop staff. And if you don't, then hopefully somebody on your leadership team is doing that. But you also set the tone and culture of your program. And we're going to talk a lot about that during this training. Teachers, they develop and implement lesson plans. They're in charge of classroom management, assessments, observations, and reflection. Now, hopefully they're doing that, because this is a big challenge for teachers. They don't understand sometimes the connection between assessment, observation, and reflection. They provide a safe and nurturing environment for children. They build strong relationships with children and families, okay? Now, in the chat box, if you can please, just a couple of things. You don't have to list individual, but just as a whole, if I were to ask you, okay, what are the strengths and areas of growth of your teachers overall in your program? So give me 1 strength and 1 growth for your program. What are some of the things that you see your teachers really do really, really well? And then maybe another area that you wish that they would work on, or that you're trying to help them with, or that you see a gap. So if you could put that in the chat box, and then we can discuss. Okay, so I see that a challenge is negative staff attitude. Let's see, looking for team building activities to set a positive attitude and set a standard for high quality programming. So Alexis, this is something that a lot of people struggle with in childcare. I've never been, and I've worked in the banking industry, I've worked in retail, I've worked at doctors' offices, I worked in university settings and high school, and I've never experienced so much gossip like I have in preschool settings and in centers. So this is something that we've always struggled with. There's a lot going on. There's, parent drama, teacher drama, children drama. And so sometimes it's really hard. But what I found is that a lot of times things just get lost in translation, and it's a matter of learning communication styles. So I've done a communication training in the past. I'll be more than happy to share some information, but basically during a staff meeting, they just fill out kind of a survey and they can figure out in communication styles, because a lot of times, we communicate differently. Some of us are touchy, feely, fluffy. We need to first know about your weekend before, you give me feedback, and others just want to know 1, 2, 3, just tell me the details and move on. I don't need the extra fluff. And oftentimes we read that as, oh, she's rude, she's mean, she doesn't like me. And that's not the case. So that's really important. So let me just head over to the chat box and just want to see if I see some trends here. Okay, so it looks like child engagement. I see that as strength. I see struggling with communication, parent and family communication. Excuse me, communication, area of growth. Communicate. So wow. Okay, so a lot of communication for area of growth. Yeah, that's really very, very interesting. So I would, definitely love to help you out with that. Not that I can solve it, but just by understanding our communication styles. But remember, I always go back to those bullet points: the leadership team, your director, your owner, your assistant director, curriculum coordinator. You all are setting the tone and the culture of your program. So you want to be leaders. You want to model the type of communication. I see here toxic and negativity, and you want to make sure that you're not ever involved in any of those things. Okay, new staffing, need more training on classroom management. Let's see, fun activities. Okay, perfect. Now, And go ahead and keep them coming if you have comments or anything like that. We'll get back to those. So you don't need to answer this in the chat box. I just want you to think about this, because this is a pitfall that I fell into as a director. When you are struggling with a lot of different challenges, a lot of things are being thrown at you as a director, what are some of the things that you need to focus on? And you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, it says proximal versus distal. So proximal means close to you, okay? So what's close to you? And then distal, what's far, distant. And I put that there because a lot of times we tend to focus and stress out about things that we cannot control. We should be focusing on the things that you can absolutely control. Now, I know staffing sometimes works both ways. Sometimes you can control staffing and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you hire someone and they show up at 9 o'clock and then they leave for lunch at 12 and never come back. So you can't control that. You can control how you react to that. You cannot control if you have a Indeed job post for 2 months and no one has responded to that, but you can control how you're figuring out a way to manage in your program. Remember, your teachers are watching you, just like children are watching teachers. If the teacher yells and screams, most likely the children are going to yell and scream. If you're running around your center, stressed out, in a bad mood, unorganized, your teachers are going to kind of fall into that mode as well, because that's very contagious. So what are some of the things that you should focus on? Maybe try to put together a schedule. And I say that and almost laughing, because we all try this, and then you walk into your office and you blink and it's 6 o'clock and you didn't get anything done on your to-do list. But maybe try to make it a point to go into every classroom every day and just say good morning, 30 seconds. Open the door. Good morning, Miss Sally. Good morning, friends. Good morning, Mr. John. Good morning, friends. And go every day. Now, I had a manager tell me one time, don't go into your office and sit down when you walk in. Put your stuff down and walk out and go say good morning to everyone, because the minute you sit down, you're going to be there all day. Because then you start with your emails, your phone calls, you have piles on your desks, So what should you focus on? You cannot focus on when licensing or the health department or an inspector comes into your program, but you can be prepared for those inspections. How do you prepare for those inspections? That's what you should focus on. Are your child files up to date? Have you done your health and safety logs? Have you done your fire drill? Have you done your playground inspection report? So staying organized. You should be focused on your teachers. Get into those classrooms or have someone on your leadership team be in those classrooms. The only way you really know what's going on in those classrooms is if someone is in there. And I know that's hard, especially now, because a lot of you are covering shifts and lunches and schedules and things like that, and running classrooms yourselves. But if no one is in there in the classroom supporting teachers or observing what's going on, then you don't know what type of quality is being delivered to your children. So I'm just looking through the chat box again. Okay. So again, this is another reflective question. As the program leader, how can you assist your teachers' needs and areas of growth? Okay, so just kind of reflect. You don't have to put it in the chat box. Just how do you think you personally could help with your teachers' needs and areas of growth? Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about building capacity. So building those skills and giving teachers those tools that they need to be successful in the classroom. Now, development and training is number one. That's why it's bolded. That is so important. There's so many different ways that you can try to find professional development and training. Now, remember this here, you are the instructional leaders. You're there to mentor and develop staff, and you set the tone and culture of your program. Now, oftentimes people ask, well, does that training offer CEUs? And I understand that CEUs are really important. You know, if you can kill two birds with one stone, why not? You have very limited time, so you don't want to waste time. But let me tell you that there are some excellent trainings, webinars, lunch and learns, conference calls, conferences that don't offer CEUs, but they are amazing. And so try to encourage teachers, especially if these trainings are free, try to encourage teachers to take as much training and professional development that they can, not to worry if they count for the state requirement, or if it's approved by the state, or if it offers CEUs or in-service, because sometimes it doesn't, but it will give you a wealth of knowledge and tools that you need to help you. And so you as leaders, you set that tone and culture, okay? Encourage them to take all the training that they can get. Remember, these are educators, and education is not static. It evolves. It's constantly changing. So the more education and training that these teachers can get under their belt, the more it's going to inspire them to do more. It's going to re-energize them, and it's going to give them those tools that they need. You want to look at teacher-child interactions. What's going on in the classroom? Are there high quality feedback loops? How are teachers interacting with children? How are they using open-ended questions? Do your teachers know what open-ended questions are and why they are so important? What's going on with the social emotional development of the children and the behavior challenges in the classroom? And guess what? The only way that you're going to know any of these answers is if someone is in there observing the teachers. So we're going to have to figure out a way to get people in the classrooms to observe teachers. And believe it or not, teachers want you in the classroom. They want the feedback. They want you to come in and observe. And you don't have to always walk in with a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pen and take notes. You can just walk in and go sit in the block center and play with children. You can say to the teacher, oh, I want to help with circle time tomorrow, or I'm going to come in and read them a story during lunch. And just to see the dynamic, you'll know just in those 5-10 minutes, the feel of the classroom, the dynamics of the classroom, what's going on with behaviors, and really speak to the teacher and say, how can I help you? You know, the roles that you are in as the leaders of your program, you're serving them. You're a servant leader. You're there to help them, because when you help them, they help the children. I talked about communication already. A lot of times things get lost in communication. Like I said, there are communication trainings available. Again, I'll be happy to share those resources with you, but you definitely want to also set that tone and model communication, especially with parents and families, because sometimes I remember I used to cringe when, you know, teachers would say certain things to parents, and you know, you have to help teachers understand that parents, you know, they're dropping off the most precious thing that they have in the world. And when they ask, you know, oh, he has a scratch on his face, and the teacher says, oh, I don't know, I'm just closing, I wasn't here. You know, that's not the response. The response should be, oh my goodness, let me find out. I will, you know, go ahead and go. I'll call you in an hour. I'll have the director call you in an hour, or let me find an answer for you. So sometimes we forget that. We're just in our getting ready to close mode, but we have, again, it goes with training. You have to train teachers on how to speak to parents, and then also figure out if there's a way in your program that you can start a mentor-mentee type of opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean new teachers with more tenured teachers. Sometimes a new teacher is bringing in fresh ideas, or maybe they've never even been in a preschool before. You hired them because you need them, and they come to you and say, is it okay if instead of doing it this way, I do it that way? And it blows your mind, like, wow, I can't believe I ever thought about that. So look at opportunities to pair teachers up. Now, I will say, please don't go to school tomorrow and say, okay, you and you are going to be paired up and you're going to work together, and you are going to go in, because teachers are very, very territorial. You don't want to offend anybody. You don't want to make anyone feel like they're doing something wrong, and that's why you're doing these new partnerships. But there is a tremendous amount of growth that can happen when teachers pair up together, when they team up together. Something that I saw in a program, I wish I would have done this, is they had teachers go into each other's classrooms and observe each other. And so if a teacher was struggling a little bit in maybe doing science activities, another teacher who's a little bit stronger in those science activities would go in, observe, help, mentor, coach, give feedback. If a teacher was struggling with transitions, maybe getting from the classroom to the playground was just crazy and chaotic, maybe a teacher that really had it down would go and help. But again, you can't just kick that off tomorrow without forewarning, because then they feel attacked, they feel criticized, they feel like they're doing something wrong. What I would suggest is that you go back to your team and during a staff meeting, say that you went to this amazing training and these are some of the tips that they gave, and that you are trying to find ways to help support them, to help minimize the behavior challenges and stressors that they have, to help get them to the next level, to help them meet their goals as educators. And so we're going to start teaming up and pairing each other up. Nobody's doing anything wrong, but we can learn better from each other. And then also lesson planning. A lot of times I remember being a director and teachers would come to me, and it's almost like children. They would come to me and say, oh, well, Miss Molly, I saw her looking at my lesson plan last week, and today I walked by her classroom and I saw that she's doing my science activity and she's copying me. You know what? It shouldn't be like that. You know, we're better together. We learn from each other. We grow together. And so your reaction should be, wow, then that science activity must be amazing. Why don't you do it at the next staff meeting so all of us can do it? And that's going to make that teacher feel good, but also a little stunned that, oh, okay, wait, I looked at this in a negative way when really I should be looking at it as a compliment, that my science activity was so great that somebody wants to do it. Because it's not that teacher's science activity, it's your center's programming. So remember that. Again, you're setting the tone and culture of your program. Is the tone in your center that of sharing, that of caring? We are supposed to be modeling for children on how to be good humans, how to be good friends, how to be friendly and respectful to each other, but then we're not that way with each other. And so we have to remind teachers that as adults, we need to really be more kind to each other. And then talking about building capacity, again, you don't have to put this in the chat box. This is just to reflect, okay? How often are you really observing and providing teachers with feedback? And again, I get it. You walk in there, you have every intention of getting in the classrooms, doing reviews, doing observations, and then something happens and you blink and a week went by and you never got to it. But you also need to reflect, because in order for you to make change, to make plans, and to make goals, you have to first see where you're at. So if it's been 3 months and you haven't been in the classrooms, okay, that's pretty significant, but there's a reason. You're probably covering shifts, you're probably, covering people's schedules and breaks and things like that, but maybe put a plan together and write it down. The minute that I have coverage, I'm gonna get into this one classroom. Let me see, there's some things that came into the chat box here. Okay, great. Some of you are going in weekly. Okay. Yes, Stephanie, you're actually segueing into my next section. So Stephanie wrote that, provide them professional development, but also provide them with real examples of what you want. And that's exactly what I'm about to start talking about. And Maria, I appreciate your honesty that you haven't been able to get into the classroom since November. And I get it. I get it. We're in a situation right now that our hands are tied, but previous to the last 2 years, some of us, it also took a month or two to get into those classrooms. So, and it's okay. We have to, give ourselves grace. We're doing a good job. We're doing the best that we can in these circumstances. So let's talk a little bit about the impact that directors have. You want to set clear, consistent expectations. Okay, clear, consistent expectations. That all should begin with your job description. So when you post something, this is the job that they're applying for. I know things change, and a lot of us put the little disclaimer at the bottom that, the job description is not inclusive of everything, but you want to make sure that you are clear on the job description, especially for people who've never been in this industry. And we're getting a lot of people that have never been in the industry before, so they don't really understand, what it all entails. You want to make sure that everything is clear and up to date in your handbook, and that you also provide training, onboarding training. And again, I say all this, I'm laughing in my head because onboarding training right now, sometimes in today's climate is, here's your code for your time card, and here's your polo uniform shirt, and this is your classroom, okay? Because we don't have time for that. We need to hire people. Try to really be consistent with consequences, consistent consequences. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation. Consequences can be good. Again, it starts with the job description, with handbooks, but more importantly, same rules apply for all team members. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have a superstar teacher that all the parents request, that, everybody wants to be in that teacher's classroom, but maybe that teacher is 5 minutes late every day, or maybe that teacher calls out sick every other Monday. But you let it slide because she's an amazing teacher and you don't want to lose her. But then you have somebody who maybe they're not on the top of your list, and they come in 5 minutes late and you write them up. Teachers talk, and that favoritism will get out. So just be very careful. You want to be consistent with your teachers. You want to model behaviors that you want to see in your teachers, okay? Model those expectations, organization, planning. Now, here's a great example, and I laugh because I've been guilty of this. How can you give teachers feedback that their classrooms are unorganized when you have piles and piles of paperwork and files on top of your desk? They're watching you. So you want to model the behavior that you want to see. How can you write up a teacher who is late every week with lesson plans, with turning in the lesson plans, when you were supposed to do everyone's review by August and it's January and there's still some people that you haven't done reviews on? And it's real world. I've done it. I've been there. I get it. You blink and months go by, but you want to make sure that you're kind of practicing what you preach. Okay. And then be present. Be actively involved in greeting teachers and parents and children. Make a daily appearance in the classroom the way I had suggested, just 5 minutes every day. Go around, say hi, good morning to everyone, so you know that at least you went in and said good morning and acknowledged everybody. I used to do that all the time after I received feedback. And then we were going through accreditation, and I would walk in and go straight to my office and work on my reviews and my self-reviews and assessments, getting ready for our visit. And I had a child come up to me and say, Miss Laura, you haven't come to visit us in a few days. And I realized, wow, I didn't think I made such a difference going in 30 seconds saying good morning, but the children like that, the teachers like that. So just take that time. Let me see here. So now I'm leading into what Stephanie was talking about. Model what you want to see, give them concrete examples, okay? Now I offer an environments training. If anybody has taken that training, it's on our website for free. Some of these slides that you're gonna see right now is from that training, but I just felt it really, really fit here. So how can you help your teachers set the stage for learning? Some of you may or may not have heard the term that the environment can be the other teacher in the classroom. And oftentimes what happens is we hire people that they're great on their resume, they're great in the interview, you expect all these things, and then when you go in the classroom, you really don't see that. But a lot of times it's because teachers just don't know what they don't know. They don't know to ask a question if they don't even know what they're supposed to be asking. So here's an example of a writing center that I found. And if you take a look at this, it's amazing, right? It's set up in a very nice, attractive way. It looks very intentional. When I see this center, it's a writing center, I see math. I see the opportunity for children to learn math. Now, some of you, now that I said that, are probably looking at this a little bit closer, like, what do you mean by math? Or you're starting to get it. The way that the center was set up with the intentionality of math, of exposing children to certain learning objectives, goals, and situations, the teacher organized everything in such a way that the children are learning sorting, right? So if you look, there's the different color swatches. There's the buckets with the different colors. So if I'm using the yellow marker, it goes back in the yellow bin. If I'm using the white marker, it goes back in the white bin. So here I see that the children are learning sorting, one-to-one correspondence, colors, shades of colors, categorization. So even though it's a learning, it's a writing center, the teacher set it up in a way that the children are now being exposed to sorting, to the foundation of math. And this is how you can set a center up where, even though the teacher might be in the block center playing with a group of children, the other children who are in the writing center are learning sorting and categorizing and matching colors. But you cannot expect your teachers to walk into the classroom and know how to do this if they've never seen anything like this, they've never been trained on anything like this. So what I always suggest is go to a staff meeting, feel free to take a picture of the screen or find something that speaks to you that's similar to this, an example of how you want your center set up. But you always have to tell the teacher the why behind it, because that's where the learning happens, just like with children. Why is it important that we set our centers up with this type of intentionality? Well, because there's other opportunities for the children to develop other skills. So while they're learning, while they're active in the writing center or in the art center, they're also actively engaged in math opportunities. Math is all around us. So the point is, you have to give teachers a concrete example. You cannot say to teachers, okay, I want everyone to work on their learning centers and there should be math and literacy in every center. Well, they don't understand. They might say, okay, well, there's some words here and there's a book here, but they don't understand unless you tell them why is it important and what should it look like, okay? Also, you want to talk about materials, okay? What materials are available to your teachers? Have a list of different things and things that can be donated to the center. You want to make sure that they have a variety of materials. You want to make sure that they are age appropriate, that they're accessible, that you have indoor and outdoor. Recyclables, you want to make sure that you have these recyclable materials because they're so easy to replace, they're free, they're open-ended. Now, let me give you an example of, and these are all suggestions that I would love for you to do in a staff meeting or a curriculum meeting. Teaching teachers the difference between an open-ended activity and a closed-ended activity. Even though these materials are open-ended, you know what happens when you give a toddler a doll or a car in a box. They play with that toy for 5 minutes and then they play with the box for 2 hours, right? Because that box, they can get creative with it. It's a train, it's a cave, it's a house, it's a shuttle. So we want to do the same thing in the classroom. But you can't just say this to teachers and expect them to know that. What you would need to do is actually give them an example and say, okay, let's talk about the differences between these two activities. We get these amazing recyclables from our parents, and the teacher says, okay, take these materials and let's make a house. all right? Or let's look at our materials. Look, guys, we just got all of these materials. We got water bottles, we got cereal boxes, we have egg cartons. Let's sit and think, let's brainstorm, what can we make with these materials? And go grab a piece of chart paper, and as the children shout out their ideas, you write them down. So we can make a house, we can make a train, we can make a cave, we can make a robot. And the teacher is writing down all of these ideas. And then the teacher says, okay, well, we can't make all of them today, but let's vote and see which one we can build first. And so how many friends want to make a house? Okay, great. 1, 2, 3. How many friends want to make a cave? 1, 2. How many? And then you total them up and you say, okay, it looks like we have 4 friends that want to make a house, and that is the most that got voted for. So let's make a house today. Now, how are we going to make it? What should we use as a roof? What should we use as the door? And so asking these open-ended questions are helping children plan and brainstorm their approaches to learning, putting it together, teamwork, social, emotional, and then ask the teachers, do you see the difference between the two? Between the open-ended activity and the other activity where I said, let's make a house, right? So again, I'm just giving you examples of how to model for your teachers, because you cannot expect your teachers, even your college educated teachers who majored in early childhood development, to come in and automatically know this, because sometimes it comes with experience. Give them examples of what you want your program to look like. You are the instructional leaders. You are the ones who are mentoring and modeling. Like I said before, you can't just say, oh, make sure there's literacy in all centers. Look like, what does that mean and why? So we want to teach children that literacy is all around us, right? So here you see the science center. Not anything too elaborate, right? You don't see any expensive light tables or anything like that, but they're books that are related to science. The upper right-hand corner is a math center that you see books. Math is all around us. A lot of your children are leaving in a year or 2 to go to kindergarten. They're already doing word problems in kindergarten. So you want to make sure that you're teaching children that math and literacy go hand in hand. The middle, the block center, add books on construction, on the neighborhood, on houses, maps, add paper, pencil, rulers, markers, scissors. You know, again, another example of how you can extend the learning is, instead of saying, okay, guys, you 4 are going to go into the block center, why don't you say, okay, guys, you 4 are going to go in the block center, but before you do that, grab the graph paper and why don't you draw what you think you're going to build, and then go build it. So then the teacher goes over and says, oh, well, let me see what you drew and let me see what it looks like. Wow, it looks amazing. Or how did you decide to build this? So you're adding those open-ended questions to elevate those high-quality teacher-child interactions. Here is another opportunity. This is a dramatic play kitchen area, housekeeping area that they turned into a pizza kitchen. I do a lot of early math training, so automatically I see the math here. And I point that out because you don't see something until you see it, until you're aware of it, right? So some of you might just see pizza kitchen, it looks cute. But now that I said I see math, some of you are noticing, okay, well, on the right is the pizza parts of a whole, right? So it's a whole, it's a half, it's a quarter. I know that, you know, the state standards don't necessarily they're not telling you to teach a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old what a quarter piece is, you know, for geometry and algebra and things like that. But why not? You're in the moment, right? It's intentional, it's appropriate. They're learning through play. Hey, this is a whole pizza. And when you cut it in half, that's half a pizza. If you cut that half in half, that's a quarter slice of pizza. I see one-to-one correspondence. I see that they're developing their fine motor skills with the pincer grasp when they're using the tong. There's a sequence, so they're learning about a sequence, you know, how you put a pizza together, or maybe they put a pizza together in a different way. And then you ask them, so tell me about your pizza. What ingredient did you use first? What ingredient did you use next? So now they're recalling and retelling those steps. They might not have the language. And if they don't, you can then say, say, okay, so what ingredient did you use first? And if they just look at you, say, did you use the sauce? Did you use the onions? Did you use the cheese? And maybe they'll nod their head, but they're hearing that language. Okay. Just opening up the chat and the questions here. So here, I just want you to reflect for a minute. What is your environment saying? You know, so as instructional leaders of your program, what is your program saying? Is your program, if I were to walk through your program, would I see that high quality? Would I see your philosophy, your mission, your vision of what you want your program to say to people? You know, what are the sound or noise levels? What about wall displays? Are there a lot of decorations? I try to stay away from decorating. You want the children to be the color and the music of your program. Let their artwork decorate the walls. What about accessibility to toys and materials? If you walk through your center, are things done with intentionality? Or does everything kind of look the same, which is fine. If that's your philosophy, that's fine. But you always want to ask yourself why. Why are our bulletin boards the way they are? Why are the centers the way they are? If the answer is because that's how it's always been done, then maybe it's time to refresh a little bit. But if the answer is because X, Y, and Z, then that's perfectly fine. I'm just here to ask you to reflect on that. What messages is the environment sending to children? Are things down low? Are they accessible? Do children have choice? And then literacy and math. Do you have literacy and math represented all around? Especially literacy. You can add books to every single center. So my challenge to all of you is take baby steps. Don't go in thinking that you're going to change everything, because then you get overwhelmed, but bring your teachers into it. Remember, I said you set the tone and culture. So is your culture, the culture of your program, about individuality, about celebrating differences, and also respecting other people's ideas? So if you see the blue wall in the picture in front of you where it says art gallery, how would you feel if your bulletin boards look like that instead of the traditional bulletin boards? Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a director, I was very controlling. I think we're a very controlling group of people. And I think it's because we have so much on our shoulders and on our plate, and we're responsible for everything. So we rather just do it ourselves than give up that control to someone else. But we have to learn that we need to delegate to other people to help us, because we can't get it all done by ourselves. And we also have to trust the people that we have on our team. They might have some amazing ideas, but maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing that. Would you allow the teachers to make up their own bulletin boards like what you see here, which what you see here looks very, very interesting, very inviting. And then everything that we discussed today is really going to help elevate the quality in your program, whether it's for elevating the quality of teacher-child interactions and your classroom environment. Maybe you're trying to achieve accreditation, or maybe you're working on some QRIS rating scores like class or ECHRS, ITERS, or maybe some other state quality requirements. And then you want to make sure that you do a morale check on your teachers. We've all gone through a lot these last couple of years, but like I said before, you have some teachers that came into work every day since March of 2020. Are you really, really honoring, celebrating, and appreciating them? Because we focus on the ones that leave and the ones that, you know, don't do much, or, you know, are staffing shortages. But what about everybody who stuck through it? You want to be observant, observe their body language, because they could be saying they're fine, but their body language is telling you that they are not fine. You want to model positive comments and communication towards staff. Please don't ever let your staff hear you gossiping about another member of the team, about a child, about a family. You know, they're watching you and they're listening. Try to spend one-on-one time with your staff. Even if it's not you going into the classroom, if that's not possible, invite them into your classroom. Invite them to, go into the lunchroom and have lunch with your staff, or, 5 minutes when they're clocking in, come into my office. How you doing? How's it going? How's your daughter? How's, just that connection. Encourage staff to take on leadership roles in your program. Maybe offer somebody to lead the staff meeting. Have them do a presentation for the first 5 minutes. Maybe you do a weekly newsletter. Have them help you with that, because the more you involve them in things outside of the classroom, the more connected they are to the program and to you. Check in with yourself. We just spent this time talking about how to support staff, but what about you? Check in with yourself. You want to make sure that you're meeting your needs. So many times as a director, owner, I ran home starving with, shaking because I was so hungry, and running to the restroom because I gave 10 or 15 potty breaks that day, but I didn't have time to go to the restroom. Give yourself grace. You're all doing amazing work. It's hard work, but forgive yourself if you don't get everything done. Celebrate your accomplishments. I love these 2 memes. You can't pour from an empty cup, so you need to take care of yourself. And the greatest metaphor of all time is, what do they say when you fly? You put on your oxygen mask first before you help somebody else, because you need to help yourself. So just reflect, how do you think you're going to help build capacity in your teachers? Hopefully this session gave you some ideas, or reinvigorated you, or recharged you, gave you some confidence at what you're doing. Maybe we already talked about, maybe you're already on the right track. So if you can put in the chat box what you think you're going to do to help your teachers, or anything in the training that spoke to you, I would love to hear that. And while you're doing that, I wanted to let you know that all of you can get a 1-month free trial for Learning Beyond Paper, which is our full curriculum. During that month, you and your entire staff can get 2 hours of professional development. I can do the environments training for you guys, and there's some other trainings on our website that you can do. So you can scan the QR code. There's no risk. You can cancel anytime. And then we have special membership pricing for you all. So these are the different prices. You can definitely take a screenshot of it, but you can also, when you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the page that will also have this information. So basically, we have a monthly member price that ranges from $179 to $44 a month, depending on your enrollment, or you can do an annual member price with a 20% discount. Again, it ranges on the student enrollment. So I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate your comments and feedback. Again, you guys are doing amazing work. Keep up the hard work. We're very hard on ourselves, but give yourself grace. That's one thing. That is my resolution for this year, is to give myself grace, forgive myself if I don't get to everything on my to-do list. But thank you for the time, and keep up the great work. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Laura. It was wonderful. I actually learned so much today. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to give us all these wonderful nuggets of wisdom. Cindy, do you want to close us out? Anything to say?
Yes, I would love to. I would just like to remind you of what Laura said. Pick something that could help you improve your center, and allow the teachers to be a part of. We have to look a little deeper now in times like this, for the joy in what we do. And it is real easy to focus on what we don't have, but let's not forget to focus on what we do have. And we all have some great teachers that we want to take care of and lean on a little bit, and give them an opportunity, to shine. And it is common for directors sometimes to not allow that, or not give permission for it. And I've learned so many things from directors in my previous role as a district manager for a large company. and also even as a vice president. And one of my former directors is on today. Shout out to Nargis. I see that you are with another company, but I'm so happy you're still in the in the industry and sharing your talents. And thank you for joining today, as well as thank you to everyone. I would encourage you to watch your NCCA email and look for ways to easily reach out and let your senators and legislators know by the click of a button. We make it really, really easy for you to email your senators and your representatives. Typically, all you got to do is put in your name and your email address, because there is a bill before Congress right now that could give a lot of support to childcare, but it could also provide universal pre-K to all 3 and 4-year-olds. And that's not a big deal to states like Florida, where that's already happening at a state level, but it would be a big change for others. And we would love for everybody to, be a voice and contribute to the ideas of what providers would need to be an effective part of that if it should come to pass. We do have a call coming up at 3 o'clock. And it is a call that we do in partnership with the Early Childhood Consortium. And it is a conversation between people from all different states about the mixed delivery system for universal pre-K. And that simply means that should the federal government decide to fund that, and states have the opportunity to do it that aren't doing it, what do providers need in order to be successful and not let the programs all go into public schools. So Storm, our executive director, has put on the chat how to join that call if you have time and are interested in being an advocate for yourself. And I cannot encourage you enough that you are an advocate and your voice is needed to make a contribution to the many voices that are already speaking to legislators about the need for childcare to have the support that public schools do in salaries, and for parents to have the support that they need in order to afford licensed childcare and high quality care. So thank you, and I will talk to you all next month.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.